On tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast, the Cubs sack the Pirates at beautiful historic Wrigley Field to start a 4-game set. We'll talk about that and the week that was, all on tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on Thursday. It is June 12th, and we are flying the W here on the CHGO Cubs podcast. The Cubs beat the Pirates 3-2 to start a 4-game set back at Wrigley Field after a long road trip. And Brendan, just as we anticipated, the Cubs beat the Pirates. It's a close game. The bullpen has to grind it out. And I have a feeling that a lot of people might be focused on Justin Turner, who didn't even play in this game.
You know, did he play against a lefty? Did he get a pinch hit? What did he do, Corey? What are we talking about Justin Turner for?
I don't even know what I'm allowed to say on the air, Brendan. It's one of those situations. But I do imagine our YouTube chat certainly knows what's going on. I do imagine, Brendan, that the Justin Turner might be having a conversation with some of the folks at Marquee about
not his fault.
Double checking their camera shots.
You know, team chemistry matters. That's a good thing for the Cubs. Keep showing it.
I don't normally like to talk about stuff that's like, if you know, you know. If you don't know, toward the end of the game on Marquee, the camera showed a clip from earlier, of Seiya celebrating in the dugout, and then it panned over to Justin Turner at the bottom of the dugout, who definitely didn't think or hope the camera would show him with a fake ball sack, Brendan, just jumping up and down. So there he is.
What are we doing?
What is happening, Brendan? I really...
Should I show a graph over here or what?
Do you have a graph about that? I don't even know.
No,
that was one of the strangest. I was not expecting. But hey, the vibes are good. I was
expecting that photo on here, but unique times. What can I say?
It's guys being dudes, man.
Guys being dudes. So 42 and 27. Like I said, Cubs being dudes.
I would not be surprised if Justin Turner is reaching out to the Marquee offices like, guys, could you not? Like, why? Anyway, back to Cubs baseball. The Cubs are now 42-27, 15 over. They take the first game here 3-2 against the Pirates, coming off of 2 series losses, Brendan, which was a new thing kind of for the Cubs in a while. They had won 7 straight series heading into that series against the Tigers in Detroit. They dropped 2 of 3 there. They follow that, dropping 2 of 3 in Philadelphia, but ultimately still 15 over, still with a 5+ game lead now in the division. So things certainly looking nice for the Chicago Cubs.
Sorry, just distracted by this chat. Unique times. But 42 and 27, the offense is finding ways to continue to score just enough runs and slugging. And the one trait I'm reminded of over the past week is how important slug and power is. You look at tonight's win against the Pirates when they sacked him 3-2. You have PCA going yard. You have Seiya Suzuki going yard. You go back to even Detroit a few days ago, no runs scored outside of hitting home runs, in which they put up 6 runs. So those power displays across the lineup is different from what we saw last season. We're seeing it from PCA, seeing it from Seiya, seeing it from Tuck, seeing it from Dansby, across the entire lineup. And that's why this team is so slump immune so to speak. And that's one of the most encouraging trends so far to start the season.
Yeah, and I think we'll have plenty to talk about in this show, Brendan. Obviously, we are here doing post-game. We are here after the Cubs flying the W on Thursday night. But we will talk, about the week that was since you and I were last together. And we appreciate everybody joining in the live YouTube chat. There is a lot of chatter. I would say this is the most comments we've gotten. So all it took was Justin Turner with a fake nutsack to really fire up the YouTube chat. But if you're listening on your podcast feeds on Thursday night or Friday morning, also, we appreciate you. We have plenty to talk about. And I think, starting as we do generally, but laying out the outline for the show, I think we'll talk about Jameson Taillon, who delivered another quality start on Thursday night. We'll continue to talk about the rotation, especially as Shota Imanaga appears to be getting closer to returning, even if that is not imminent. He is pitching. He is rehabbing, so that should be coming soon. So we'll talk about the implications that may have with guys like Colin Ray, Ben Brown, who struggled in Philadelphia, Cade Horton, who goes on Friday against Paul Skeens. We will talk about the bullpen. We'll talk about Ian Happ, who is hot once again, as most people that have watched him for the last 5 years knew he would, but for some reason, there's a good portion that seemed pretty adamant that was not going to happen. We'll talk about Seiya Suzuki and PCA, who paced the offense with home runs on Thursday night. Plenty to talk about. But generally, Brendan, nice to get back to Wrigley Field, pick up a W. I know that, a decent amount of the fan base, at least if you're reading social media, was frustrated. The series in Detroit, the series in Philadelphia, obviously that last game in Philadelphia, especially not the most fun. But you come back to Wrigley and you continue doing what this team has done a really good job of the entire year, which is racking up these wins against lesser competition. And we can get into the weeds if you want about the series in Detroit or the series in Philadelphia. But my summary on that, they're good teams. They face really good pitching and they're pretty competitive series. You're going to lose 2 or 3 sometimes, especially on the road, to good teams. And what they look like and how they fared in Philadelphia in June doesn't really have any bearing on what happens in October, as long as you continue to have a lead in the division like the Cubs do. And even over that stretch on that road trip, they gained ground in the division.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
You said it best. The team right now is not going to be the team roster-wise in 2 months.
Yeah.
So the pitching is going to be looking different in August, in the bullpen and in the rotation. Who knows? They could be adding another bench bat for depth. So your point of just stay afloat, keep stacking these wins, keep either maintaining that division lead or growing it slightly just to get to the point where you are improving significantly atop that rotation, getting a guy who can slot into your quote unquote top 3 for a playoff series. That's their goal. And quite frankly, that's the trajectory they're on. So, pulling out a win with Chris Flexen finishing a game, that's fun. It's nice. It's meaningful. Having Ryan Presley close out the game against the Pirates, meaningful, getting those wins. They will not be doing that in August. And that's what I keep telling myself too, and why these wins are so important.
Yeah. And look, I said this a while back, and I always look at it this way, but you divide the season into parts, and we're still in part 1. Part 1 is getting to the deadline or near the deadline, as we hear Jed Hoyer is maybe being particularly aggressive. Get there in a position where your front office and your ownership has good reason to push some chips in. If you want to think of it in a really pithy analogy or metaphor, like in poker, right now the Cubs have been dealt a very good hand. I don't know exactly what, not pocket aces, but pair of jacks or something like that. The Brewers beat the Cardinals on Thursday night. So you have a 5.5 game lead now over the second place Brewers, a 6 game lead over the St. Louis Cardinals. You can get closer to the deadline in a position like that. That is a really high chance to make the playoffs and have a chance to screw around, which should compel your ownership and front office to supplement the team.
They should.
Whether they
at this
do,
point.
We'll see. But we've seen in years past where they were entering the deadline, and we were kind of having that debate of should they push in we as fans think they should, but like in terms of their actual chance, like, do they have a chance to win the division? They're pretty far out. Can they make the wild card? How many prospects do you want to give up to like try to sneak into a wild card? At the moment, this 2025 team, you're looking at a different conversation. You are on a really good path right now. And if you supplement it, you should have a chance to mess around in October. So that's the position that they find themselves in. Again, I understand the sort of frustration watching the last few series before this Pirates one, but ultimately, like, doesn't really matter. Like, you just got to find ways to win. Take 1 of 3 against good teams on the road. If you can, anything better than that, great. And then you come home against the Pirates and keep racking up the W's, which this team has done an excellent job of over the course of the year.
It allows the Cubs too to test out potential options, having that wiggle room of 5.5 games, 6 games, 7 games. Not to say they aren't pushing the pedal to win as many games as possible, but the way Craig manages, he thinks in a balance of short-term and long-term implications. That's how he's managed a bullpen throughout the entire season. So when I look at the roster construction as is, well, because they have this lead, they're able to be more patient with certain guys. Maybe, we'll see, we'll talk about it. Maybe they are more patient with Ben Brown. Now, if the division lead were 1 to 2 games, then then you have to start making some uncomfortable decisions and not have so much patience with guys who are going through struggles. Matt Shaw is a great example too. Earlier in the year, they were more urgent, right? They wanted to win those games. Now you're 6 games up and you're able to perhaps withstand some adjustments Shaw may need to make as the season goes on, although he's looked terrific, by the way, defensively and offensively. But it's important just to keep afloat, but also give yourself enough room for quote unquote experimentation, where you find those guys who could be pieces to the puzzle in September and October.
Yeah, and that's a great point in terms of the importance of building that lead in the division and the comfort that it allows you in terms of letting things play out. Because you think about it, it made me think of, and every year is different and things can change on a dime. Like, the Cubs haven't even played a ton with the Cardinals and the Brewers, like to really sort of separate themselves.
Which is crazy to even think.
But you think of a year like 2015, for example, like that was a year where despite the Cubs in the second half, especially like playing what ended up being a 97 win pace, that was only getting you a wild card spot. So even though you're a really good team, you're playing really well, in that context, like it wasn't good enough. Like you needed to be at that standard, and every little thing going to get broken down because that's the standard you need to be at. You think of a team, a division like the NL West, looking at it right now, like the Padres are in 3rd place at 38-29. 38-29 is a great record. In a vacuum, you're feeling great about that. To them, not good enough. They're at a risk of not making the playoffs with that record.
Look at the game tonight. So Presley closes the game out. So the question is, well, why is Presley closing the game out? The other option was maybe Pomeranz, but then you're using him on back-to-back days. So you have this big lead. Maybe, I don't know if this is actually what's going on, but it's possible the Cubs are thinking, especially Craig, okay, let's elongate Pomeranz as much as possible. If this were a 1-game lead in the division, maybe Pomeranz goes back-to-back. Maybe Keller goes 2 innings. Maybe you're pushing it a little bit more like we saw David Ross do to fault at the end of 2023.
Yeah. And on Thursday, I actually liked what Counsell did. I know in the moment it was kind of like, wait a minute, is Presley back in the 9th inning? But I like the way he approached this, like wind blowing in, your offense not doing a ton outside of PCA and Seiya. You had a fire in the 7th with some, near outs, right? Like Happ almost caught one of those liners and left, etc. You go to Keller. He does walk in the run, which, was annoying, but he gets out of it with the lead. So he's your fireman there. And then he went to Palencia in the 8th because you were facing the 2, 3, 4 hitters in that lineup. And you go to Palencia. The highest leverage moment in the game was that moment there, the Keller spot, and then the 8th facing the middle of the order. And you hope Palencia gets through it, which he did. You give your offense one more shot to get some insurance runs. And after that, you're like, hey, these were the fires. Presley's been in this spot. He's been good for the last good bit, despite not getting as many whiffs as we would want, or really any whiffs most of the time.
Which we should talk about.
So you take the risk, but I like the way he approached that. I know in the moment, I think some fans, maybe a little confused, but it was one of those things. It's like 7th and the 8th were the fire spots. So he attacked those with the lead, tried to keep giving the offense chances, and then you get to the 9th and hope somebody gets 3 outs, which is what Presley did. So we're going to hit our first ad break here, and then we're going to get more into the weeds of kind of the specific player performances and conversations. But let's hit our first ad break here, and we'll be back in a moment.
Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. So your one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs, Sunnyside has the expertly curated menu with over 100 strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city, including Wrigleyville and River North, to the suburbs in Champaign, South Beloit, and more. And if you're just starting out, Sunnyside has expert guidance and brands we know you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's. Visit Sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases and a promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions do apply. Sunnyside's Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 and over or Illinois medical card holders. And for existing users, use promo code CHGO50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item. New vehicles are in store at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and this is your chance to score a great deal at the employee pricing plus sales event. Head to Ray CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. Lease the new 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn for only $419 a month for 36 months, or finance at 1.9% for 72 months. This team, Ray CDJR, is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. Go check out our partner today to shop one of Chicago area's largest inventories. Find the right new vehicle for you. Don't miss out on the employee pricing plus sales event for huge savings on the Ram 1500. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com.
All right, Brendan, back with you. Yes, I think that's, general thoughts. Like I said, getting back to it, nice to pick up a W here, start this series with a win, especially facing Skeens on Friday. And I like the aggressive bullpen usage from Craig, going with his fire guys early and prioritizing holding the Pirates down. I do want to transition to kind of, getting into some of the more specific player trends and things like that. And I think, we're doing postgame on Thursday here. Cubs win 3-2 over the Pirates. PCA, a 2-run homer. I know our guy Cody Del Mendo, who I believe is in the chat, he is probably very deep in Justin Turner's sack Twitter and discussion. I don't know if he can even focus on actual Cubs discussion if I know our guy Cody. But he did send a note to us that PCA now has he has hit the 9th highest pitch tracked in baseball for a home run this year. And he also has the 2 lowest pitches hit for homers this year. So it's very amusing. Like, we talk about his chase rate and things like that, but it's very amusing and extremely hobbyish of him that you have this menace of a hitter that you are trying to figure out how to keep off the base paths. He's not exactly a guy that's going to take a walk. So you're thinking, if you're Andrew Heaney, hey, I'll miss this one above the zone, or I'll bury this breaking ball below the zone. Not so against Pete. He's going to attack you no matter where you throw it, and he probably will take you deep regardless.
That shows his bat range. He does have the worst chase rate in the league right now. So if you go to his baseball savant page, you're going to see a 1 next to chase. That means for first percentile, which is not good. First in that case is not good. But at the same time, that is showing his ability to barrel up when he's intending to barrel up. So I approach PCA very similar to how I approach Shaw. It's the capacity to hit the ball in extreme fashion. And over time, just like Shaw, just like PCA, just like any other former rookie, those guys tend to figure it out and own in their skill. Javi and KB, you mentioned Javi. There were points throughout his early career where he did have a B-hack. He did have a more aggressive approach even before the BHAC. And it was this constant flow of changes. For PCA, I imagine we're going to continue to see the same thing. So in one sense, people will criticize the chase rate and being too high. The other way, just seeing his ability to hit those pitches far, I mean, home runs in extreme ways, is really fun to see.
Yeah. So getting more into tonight's game, another quality start from Jameson Taillon, who I think is one of the guys I definitely wanted to talk about. We've talked him a bit in the last few episodes, I think, but, improves his record on Thursday night to 7-3, 6 1/3, 4 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts, season ERA at 3.48. And one of those runs, right, coming via Keller, walking the run in. So still Taillon's responsibility, but he wasn't on the mound to give it up. Then, Brendan, looking at Jameson Taillon's last several starts, I put these numbers together. His last 6 starts, 39 innings pitched, flat, 22 hits, 10 earned runs, 7 walks, 29 strikeouts, a 2.31 ERA. Really just stellar work from Jameson Taillon. He's been going deeper into some of these starts, giving you at least some length. And I think we talked about this with with Colin Ray. We talked about it with Matthew Boyd, I know for sure, last week. Like, hopefully you're getting Shota back soon. My number one priority at the deadline would be a playoff starter, frontline starter, wherever you want to slot that in. If you had a healthy Justin Steele and Shota had been pitching, etc., I mean, this is incredible work from Jameson Taillon. This is exactly, to me, what you're asking out of him each and every outing. And he's obviously been great in this last stretch. But on the whole, to me, this is exactly the type of work that you need from Jameson Taillon in the middle of this rotation.
The critical point for Taillon is, can he be a playoff rotation starter? I've heard that. And it's fair because, as you just said, Shota's out, Steele's out, and you look at the top of the rotation, you see, Boyd, can he make it to October? You see Taillon, it's like, 3.54 ERA perhaps. Is he really that viable playoff guy? The pushback I will throw to that thinking is Taillon's going about his recent success differently. So the assumption in everyone's thoughts are Taillon is the same guy now as he was, 2 months ago, as he was a year ago. And so they're anticipating the same type of performance. That's not necessarily the case right now. And the reason is he's using a different pitch type. He's implemented a new changeup. He's tripled this new changeup in usage in June and May compared to April. And this changeup, if you look at just all the pitches he throws, his changeup, highlighted here in green, has depth on the pitch that separates his four-seam fastball and his sinker. On the left, you see in 2024, he didn't have those green changeups. A lot of his secondary offerings were horizontal away to right-handed batters. The cutter, the sweeper, the curveball. The curveball in particular was his out pitch to lefties. Over time, though, that curveball got a little bit more horizontal, and so he's more susceptible to lefties. How do you combat that? You add something that doesn't have as much horizontal. You add a changeup. And so you're seeing on the right, those green changeups now have that depth, and that pitch is what he's using to get those left-handed batters out. So as I anticipate what the Cubs are going to do, part of the thinking is, well, how is Taillon going to continue to develop and succeed? Now, development is not just assigned to Shaw and PCA and Ben Brown. It's assigned to these older guys because now they have the resources to make them better. You look at Chris Flexen, you look at Brad Keller, and yes, you look at Jameson Taillon. Now, do I anticipate Taillon is going to be a top 3 starting pitcher in your playoff rotation? Well, no, right? It's only been 2 months, and the track record suggests maybe he looks more like a John Lackey type, right? Which is still valuable. But there's still the possibility open that as he continues to show this success with this new pitch type, that, yeah, maybe that is more of a realistic potential than we think.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, it's just been really good work for Taillon. Continues to rack up those quality starts, which is always nice to see. Um, and on a night like tonight, like offense wasn't there, like wind was blowing in, which is another thing, Brendan. Like I know we dealt with this last year. Like enough of this. I don't know who I have to talk to, with the Chicago weather system, but like enough of the wind blowing in. Luckily, PCA and Seiya were able to cut through it, but just good work from Jameson Taillon. And yet, to your point, look, like I think, again, my number one priority, I see our YouTube chat talking about some trade possibilities, and maybe we'll get into that. But my number one thing is a frontline starter. It's got to be. And that's especially like Shota's coming back. He's been throwing rehab outings, building up that stamina, etc. But there's still at least somewhat of a question mark of when he's going to be back. Is he going to be back at full steam? Any lingering effects? And, knock on wood, I hope everything's great and he looks like a Cy Young contender like we've seen him do before, sitting at the top of the league in ERA for months at a time. But there's no guarantee on that. Right. And so frontline starter is going to be my biggest priority. And when you're talking about, we'll see, how they manage innings for some of the guys that maybe need innings managed, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the key is keep developing these guys. And should you get to October, like maybe you're in a position where it's like, all right, for sure, mystery player at the deadline and Shota. And if he's still cooking and feeling good, Matthew Boyd are the guys you're going to give the ball to. And then you turn it over to Craig Counsell to do his magic and figure out how he's getting 27 outs with guys. Matthew Boyd's a guy that as he's gotten deeper in the pitch count, I think his numbers after pitch 80 it stands out in terms of the splits that his starts sort of diminish.
Well, to be fair, most guys stand out after pitch number.
Well, 80. Sure. Yeah. But him in particular, for someone that's been quite good, it's a noticeable thing. But yes, that's a point taken. But Taillon as well. Like you do have some guys where maybe you do let them start or contribute in playoff games if you get there, but you're mindful of, okay, we're going to be really dialed in on when Craig might be getting somebody up in the bullpen. How many times in the order have we gone through? Kind of a hyper focus on that rather than thinking of other guys where it's like, hey, this is John Lester's playoff start. Like, we're going to ride him until he looks like he's out of gas. And then he's still going to tell us to sit down and shut up.
What year did that happen?
When did that happen?
Yeah, when did that happen?
2016, Brendan, when the Cubs won the World Series.
Correct. Okay. Just making sure.
I do still remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, for the staff that they have now, just about getting through, surviving. You're without your two best pitchers. Hopefully one of them is coming back soon. Maybe reinforcements are coming. Looks like Javier Assad is scheduled to, get back and get rehabbing soon. And then see if you can make reinforcements. But yeah, like, and especially thinking about like that Phillies series, like everybody was freaking out about that Phillies series, man. Like they're playing the Phillies in October. They're not going to throw Colin Ray and Ben Brown. Like, so, just survive for now. And they've been doing a great job of that. They've been getting really good production from guys that I don't think they anticipated pitching every fifth day for this significant of a portion.
And hang on that point. You said that's the key phrase. They did not anticipate. Over time, when we've been following this team, talking about this team, you and I anticipate certain things. And a lot of those times, we are wrong. And so are coaches, so are front offices. They're wrong in their anticipations. What I've learned over the past, especially over the past year, is that you can have this wide range of possibilities and leave open room for some of those possibilities turning into outcomes. So we talk about, I see in the chat, Chris Sale. Okay, well, the trade deadline's in 6 weeks. I don't know what Chris Sale's availability is going to be like in 6 weeks. Am I going to spend effort trying to mix and match how a trade for Chris Sale works? No. Atlanta won a World Series below 500 3 years ago. I don't know if he's even available.
Yeah.
You look at Kevin Gossman, right? Hold on. Toronto, you have no idea what Toronto's going to do. I don't know if he's going to be available. You look at Sandy Alcantara from Miami. Awful start to this year. Now, recently, within the last couple of starts, looking like his former Cy Young self. So there's a lot to happen before now and the back end of July. Shota needs to come back and show he's healthy. Boyd needs to continue to show that stamina. You mentioned the 80 pitch thing. That is a real thing. Taillon still needs to get comfortable using this new pitch repertoire. So there is a lot to be learned. Javi Assad needs to come back and look healthier. Maybe you need to spend that money not on front loading one guy, but bringing in more depth in multiple guys. We just don't know yet. So I'm watching these games now, not in the mindset of what are they going to do in 4 weeks? I'm literally just watching the game in like a game-to-game basis.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to take our second ad break here, but that goes back to kind of how we talked about it in the beginning. Just keep winning games. Build the lead in the division.
And let it play out.
Worry about, and I saw all these narratives these last couple of series. Can they hit good pitching? What about October? Doesn't matter. Win games now. Get to the deadline. Get to October and ride with what you got when we're there. But we're a long way from there. Just day by day, beat the Pirates and blinders on. Keep trudging forward. And that's what they're doing. Right. And Jameson Taillon has done a really good job of leading them there with his most recent stretch of starts. So we'll take our second ad break here, and then we'll come back and keep talking about your first place Chicago Cubs.
Just like your favorite team needs a home field advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, a dedicated flooring professional who focus only on flooring every single day. We've all been to those big box stores. You wander endless aisles and somehow you're hauling all these materials home, looking for an installer and coordinating everything yourself. Empire Today is your best bet for a new floor. They live and breathe flooring, all they do, and they will be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ballgame. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. Pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. See how it looks with your furniture in your house. It is extremely convenient. Get precise measurements taken and have all your questions answered so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule that installation as soon as the next day. Schedule it because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners can get $350 discount when using promo code CHGO. Yes, you heard that right. $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. Baseball fans, if you're thinking about upgrading your drive this season, Toyota's 2025 lineup is definitely worth a look. There's the RAV4. It's versatile, reliable, and always ready for a little adventure. If you're looking for efficiency, the Corolla's got you covered. It's smart, stylish, and easy on gas. If you need something tougher, the Tacoma brings serious durability. And finally, the Camry, sleek and packed with performance. Summer starts here. From adventures to weekend escapes, our versatile lineup is ready to ride with amazing deals to match. So visit your local dealer and find yours today. You can check out the full lineup at toyota.com or stop by your Chicagoland Toyota dealership. Toyota, let's go places, and become a CHGO diehard by upgrading your fandom today. Go to allchgo.com for the latest information on how you can join the thousands of CHGO diehards in our community. We cannot wait to connect with you on an ever greater level. Academy Casino Hotel.
All right, Brendan, back with you here. Why don't we just keep going on the rotation? I don't know if you had any further thoughts on guys like Colin Ray, Ben Brown. I know, again, we've talked about Ben Brown, and I continue to look at him kind of the same way. And it's one of those things that we've talked about this. You have to find a way to kind of balance the two things. And right now the team is in it. And this goes to your earlier discussion, I think, even on some of the offensive guys. Like, if this division were tight at this moment, or you had a year like we've seen in the past where a team like Milwaukee is just running out front, they're just racking up wins, and you dug yourself an early hole, maybe the conversation on this is different. But I think with Brown, it's, again, one of those things. You're without your top two guys, and you're leaning on him to be kind of further along in his development than he is at this moment. And he's an interesting guy, especially you compare those two starts on the road trip, like basically blow for blow, punch for punch with Tarek Skubal in Detroit, and then kind of a mess of an outing in Philadelphia, leaving the ball right over the middle of the plate, way too much. The command not where he wanted it to be. And so a very interesting juxtaposition of those two starts. But it is one of those things, like a season he's coming back after dealing with an injury. He's a young guy. This is, he's obviously been a starter at times in the major league level before, but this is really his first time, like every fifth day for this significant of a period. And you got to weigh that. Like, how much patience do you have for his development and continuing to work with his repertoire versus the inconsistency that we see from start to start from him being something that you start thinking about, hey, like, would we try him in a bullpen role, like max out the stuff for a shorter amount of time? Do we want to keep riding this? It's one of those in-season things that this front office is going to have to continue to weigh. But what are you seeing from Ben Brown? I know we've talked about him kind of a lot.
Oh, yeah. A lot of his issues earlier on a month ago, they were related to what he said were first inning mental issues. He said that he was trying to throw his hardest, and that was manifesting in throwing under 95 miles per hour in the first inning. So he described it as like a mental like hiccup, where then he settled down and the velocity then started to rise. So I don't know how to feel about that. That's just weird to me. At the same time,
you hate a bad PR quote.
I mean, I like Taillon's very transparent, so I appreciate Brown also being transparent. But it does make me think like what's going on there, dude? Like your stuff is electric. Like, dial it in, right? The start against Philly, it wasn't like what we saw with the first inning troubles and how it happened. He threw on average almost 1.5 miles per hour faster in Philly. So again, Ben Brown, listen to what these guys say. He's saying, my first inning problems are due to me trying to throw too hard and it manifests under 95 miles per hour. So what do? I go to Philly. I see that first inning. Okay. He's throwing 96, 97, 98 on average. That's not the problem then. So it's weird because it looks like he's making incremental progress in some areas. And then in other areas, it kind of takes a step back, whether it be on the changeup feel, where he developed a new changeup, like Taillon has been using that since early May. And it seems with him, you get these extreme highs and lows. You see that in his FIP and ERA discrepancy, where his FIP is good, his ERA is not good. The Ks are great, but the hard hit contact's too high. The walks aren't that problem, but he loses his command and leads over the middle of the zone, right? So you got these highs and lows. And where I fall back on is seeing how things play out with the rest of the rotation. How does Cade Horton look? How does Shota look when he comes back? How is Colin Ray looking? And if we're up to me right now, I would probably do something extreme with Brown. And so if that means like skipping him for a start for 1 to 2 weeks, just to change the environment, change the routine, change the mental, then maybe that is the way to go. We saw this happen with Taillon 2 years ago. We've seen it happen over and over again with so many pitchers, where it does change how they approach things. And even Kyle Hendricks last year, that I think is where I stand now, but I'm very flexible in how they approach it.
Yeah, and look, a lot of what you're describing, he's 25.
He's 25.
He's got 20 starts at the MLB level. And like I said, I think his most recent start in Philadelphia was his 12th start of the year.
And to his credit, by the way, he gave 100 pitches. So he got shelled.
Yeah, he ate it. Yeah, the Cubs they didn't have a lot of off days in this stretch. It's going to be, they need to maximize those starts. Yeah, and he ate that a little bit. But 25 years old. That was his 12th start of the year. He made 8 starts last year. So there's going to be some growing pains, y'all. And again, it's for the team to balance. That doesn't mean that, for the rest of the year, you just every 5th day and you be patient and you take what you get. They may have to adjust that,
I think it naturally works its way out, because we were talking about Colin Ray getting removed from the rotation. We saw the whole first inning thing with both those guys. So it's not as if there's an obvious guy to fill that void. And I believe Craig's going to be looking at this on a week-to-week basis, just looking at how the bullpens look. What does Tommy Ottavy say? How does their pitch shapes look? Is Ben Brown's first inning problems persisting? And then naturally, I keep using the word naturally, it just works its way out. And it's not a long-term, cemented decision, whatever it ends up being for both those guys.
Yeah, and I mean, look, a good point from our friend Evil Wax in the YouTube chat. Like, if he's talking about his, mentality and kind of being a little geeked up in the first innings and things like that, we've seen him come out of the bullpen before, but it's not exactly the quote you'd want to hear from a guy if you were going to transition him to, a single inning role.
I did
I
think
think
about that too.
I think what we need to do, we got to get Ben Brown in a room with John Lester, and John will teach him about mentality a little bit. Let me tell
We
you how to
should
think
have.
of these hitters when they step in the box and how disgusted they should make you that they're going to try to get hits off.
We need to bring back like Lackey, Arrieta, Lester, have them like set up in like a press conference setting and just have like the Cubs pitchers ask them questions for feedback. That's what we need.
Yeah. I like that. John Lester should really just be involved, I think, at every level.
Yeah, just like assistant pitching coach.
I mean, hitting coach too.
Oh, absolutely.
Beautiful swing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that kind of wraps up the thoughts on the rotation. And again, look, like Shota working his way back, going to build up that stamina, and hopefully, it's not too much longer here. Javier Assad, trying to work his way back, trying to get healthy, and going to ramp up his rehab. So, again, just keep piling up these options and see where you can go with it. What I want to do before our third and final ad break here is finish on some of the pitching, maybe talk about the bullpen really quick. We talked about the usage on Thursday night. And then in the last 15, when we come back, we'll talk about some of the guys on offense and highlight those guys. But just to start, we talked about the usage tonight, going to Keller in the 7th, going to Palencia in the 8th, the fire in the 7th, the heart of the order in the 8th, and Craig prioritizing those outs, trying to get as far as he could, give the offense as many chances to get some insurance runs. And then he goes Pressly in the 9th. It's been a really interesting season for Ryan Pressly. He obviously has that just nightmare of an outing on May 6th against the Giants. Doesn't get an out, so it's 0 innings pitched on the ledger, 5 hits, 8 earned runs, a walk, just an absolute nightmare. But since then, Brendan, he has not given up any runs. So even the game tonight against the Pirates, like some hard contact on the ground, that Nico was able to scoop up, but he's not giving up any runs. So, certainly like the overall takeaway with this entire bullpen basically is they need more swing and miss. And that's going to be most bullpens and most teams. You can never have enough, but the Cubs really lack that. And Pressly in particular, even though he got the job done on Thursday, it's a lot of contact. And if this is a night where the wind is blowing out instead of in, like a better offense, occasionally that is not going to be a good recipe. But it's just been such an interesting run for him. He has one of the worst outings I've ever seen on May 6th. And since then, just a bunch of zeros, Brendan. So it's been a rather fascinating stretch here from Ryan Pressly.
When we look at where this bullpen could land in August and September, I want to pose a question to you before we hit that last ad break. But do you see hope that Pressly can get more strikeouts in 2 months? A serious question to you.
Well, no. The velo is at least in a better spot. The one thing I'll say before I let you finish is, we talked about this before, the one thing that really matters about Pressly is he's been getting it done. And we can dig into the peripherals. And as we're going to talk about, like, what's the long-term play? How would you use him throughout the season? Where should he be pitching? But sometimes you just need guys to get it done and get outs and put the ball over the plate and turn it into outs, because we've seen enough guys try and not be able to do that. And so I'm not sitting here suggesting he should be in the 9th. I'm not suggesting he should ever be in high leverage. I was nervous when he came into the game on Thursday night. But there's something to be said for getting the job done, because we've seen guys come up and get sent down immediately because they were not able to do that.
Is he getting the job done? He has a K per 9 of 5.5 and a walk per 9 of 4. Hector Neris got it done. He had a 3.8 ERA just before
I am not suggesting he's been good. I'm just saying the zeros on the board matter. When we're talking about racking up wins, Brendan, like sometimes you just need a human body that can somehow get outs, right?
I do think this is a good conversation. Let's take that last ad break here. Let's continue doing this after. It's everything you need in one spot. We're talking thousands of the latest slots and table games. If you're ready to refuel, we've you've got a ton of amazing restaurants and bars to choose from. Whether you're feeling fancy or just want a quick bite, they've got you covered. You don't even have to leave the property. Stay in style at their luxury hotel, just steps away from what many call the Midwest's best sports book. If you're heading to a ball game this summer, start your day right at Potawatomi. Hit the sports book, then head out to the game. Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. Your win is waiting. Go check it out. You know the moment, the one where you realized you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or at a gas station 3 states away or in the Wrigley Field bleachers. We've all been there. But then I found Shady Rays and it changed the game. These sunglasses are made for real life. They are seriously good looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. Here's a wild part. If you lose or break them, like me, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now when I wear my sunglasses without fear, I can go on hikes, go to concerts, on the boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com. Use that code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
All right, Brendan, back with you here. We'll see if we run long tonight. Maybe we'll keep it to an hour, but
we'll see.
Yeah, finish on like Presley and the bullpen.
Our discussions on Brown and the starting pitchers revolve around guys making significant changes, whether it be for Brown's changeup or Colin Ray's fastball or his new slider. Like, all these guys have made significant changes. With Presley, the only significant change he's made is that he's increased his four-seam fastball usage. And the fastball is not bad. It is slower than before. The velocity is up a little bit. It's that cut right profile, but you're not going to get whiffs on that fastball. So secondary is not playing. It hasn't played for 2 years.
Yeah.
So the other options in the bullpen, once Shota comes back, once Porter Hodge comes back, you are going to have to make some uncomfortable decisions.
Yeah.
I understand he's making, $8 million per year. I do think a DFA, I'm not saying to do it, but I do think it's not crazy to even suggest, because I'm looking towards August. I'm looking at what he's showing now. And I ask myself the question, what is the likelihood that he can even sustain the output he's showing?
Sure.
And most guys don't sustain that output with those peripherals. You know that very well, Corey. And
Yeah.
I look at someone who isn't as veteran, doesn't have a veteran presence like Presley, like someone like Genesis Cabrera, right? Out of options. But he's got that unique lefty release point. His K per 9 is 9. His walk rate's better than Ryan Presley's, but he hasn't had that experience. He's had this volatile career. Do you trust him in a larger sample? These guys are fickle. And those are the questions to be weighed. Then again, I also look at Cabrera, and I think there's a better possibility that he can get more whiffs in August. And so that's where I think you're going to have to make this risky decision. And I will say, if I were to be shoved right now, I would probably DFA Presley. I just don't see it improving significantly. And if you don't DFA him and you're confident that he can give you innings through September, just eat innings, that's fine. I understand that. Then okay, go for it. But if your idea is to maximize his current pitch types, maximize what he currently is offering, and even have a better ERA, I don't believe that he is substantially giving you a better chance than the other options.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's an interesting conversation, because it's over the last, several outings since that one against the Giants, the results have been there in terms of just the box score. But, you look at his baseball savant page, the whiff rate is in the bottom percentile of the league, the K rate, the hard hit rate, things like that. So it's one of those, how do you weigh literal results with, as you said, the kind of carousel of guys that don't have options, and thinking projectability as you go forward.
Because
overall,
you have a lot of guys like Brian Presley. Sorry to cut you off there, by the way, but just to interject, but you have contact first guys. You have, the entire bullpen is contact first. Chris Flexen's contact first. Brad Keller is contact first, despite his great start to the season. Palencia needs to get more strikeouts and more whiffs. We talked about ALLCITY for the past couple of years when he was a closer, saying, "Oh, I like what he's doing, but you know what I don't like? I don't like blue pits." And the entire bullpen right now is prone to blue pits.
That's probably your number 2 priority as you head to the deadline, and we'll transition to the offense here. But you got to get some more swing and miss in this bullpen. You cannot live on everybody giving up contact. The defense is great, and you can live with it more because your defense is elite at so many of these positions. You've got Gold Glovers all over the place. You've got, PCA doing insane things in center field. But at some point, you got to get guys that, bases loaded, nobody out. You're turning to somebody to try and just strike out the side. And right now, you have some guys you could hope that's going to happen, but you really want at least one or more guys in that bullpen that you feel really confident in. Like, we got to bring somebody in where the bat is not touching the ball, especially in October in those close games. Weather gets a little colder, crisper. You need those guys, and the Cubs just do not have enough of it, despite the bullpen doing a lot of really good things on the whole and getting the job done. But if you're trying to project, kind of as Theo would say, like, what is going to get in the way of what we have here? What are the speed bumps that might show up on this road? That might be one
speed bump.
Yeah. So let's transition to the offense. And I think the first thing, look, like they're best buddies. It's a lot of fun. Their dynamic is unbelievable. PCA and Seiya, their dynamic is unbelievable when you watch them having fun. What's even more fun is when they pace the offense by ripping homers, Brendan.
Man, it's crazy to look at both those guys and 40 home run paces. For Seiya, of course, it's more projectable. We didn't see PCA's home run pace to be looking like this, but what we're seeing.
Did you watch? Speaking of PR stuff, did you watch Jed on the MLB Network talking about that?
What he said?
That was great. He was sort of like very coyly taking a bit of a victory lap on that trade.
What did he say?
Just talking about how, we didn't necessarily think he'd have that power, but you have a fast twitch athlete like that, and sometimes that stuff happens. The Mets turned down, we tried for Alvarez, we tried for Beatty, and they said no, and we settled on Pete. So, here we are. It was very funny. And he had the biggest grin on his face.
Good for him. It's got to be a good feeling. But he's right, though. You get a fast twitch athlete and anything can happen. But also, it's really a lot of credit for the Cubs developmental team. They've been succeeding on those developmental margins, if you will, significantly. I'm talking Miguel Amaya, I'm talking Shaw, I'm talking PCA. To have all three of those guys, when Amaya's healthy, producing at an above average value is really impressive after the struggles they endured to start their careers. And I pointed this out a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week, but the iteration for the top prospects of last era, looking at even Schwarber, even Ian Happ, it was too slow. Their stints to AAA coming back up, they had a little bit of a peak in value, but it was still a struggle. It is one reason why Schwarber was non-tendered in addition to COVID restrictions. Ian Happ took some time to even find his ground in left field and offensively at times too. So the Cubs' ability to locate what needs to be changed and then successfully execute those changes is really impressive, and it's leading to PCA quite literally being an MVP candidate. A better way to phrase the PCA discussion, I think, is, MVP, he's going to get MVP votes. Like, that's impressive in and of itself. He will be getting MVP votes this year.
Yeah, well, and, just thinking of Pete, I was just watching, one of his post-game things. And, I really, speaking of like guys and how they're talking media, I love the way he talks to the media. Yeah. Man, I really love it. And just how like humble he seems to be. And we can make this our Taking the Temp segment of the episode. And the Taking the Temp segment is brought to you by your trusted local experts at Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. And we're just taking the temp on PCA. I was watching this interview he was giving post game, and he's constantly reminding on how he's kind of had like growing pains and people there. I think he used, sort of the phrase like keeping him in check, like reality checks throughout
Justin Turner, he
his
mentioned.
career. Yeah. And, even just thinking about, coming up, being sent down, where he was kind of positioned, things like that, he always alludes to that stuff. And I just love the way that he talks to the media, a guy having such a breakout season and doing things in such an incredible fashion. And while he is, boisterous, exuberant, whatever word you want to use, when he's on the field and celebrating a homer and things like that, he is really kind of the opposite when he's talking to the media and speaking about himself. He's always giving credit to those around him and those giving him advice. He seems to be constantly taking that advice, and he does his talking on the field, man. And like when they ask him about this stuff, he just gives such great answers. And for such a young guy who we're all envisioning being this leader of the Cubs for the next decade or so, like I am really impressed with the way that he carries himself and just talks about the game and talks about his own development.
He's confident yet aware. It's the best combination to have. He's confident in his ability, but he's aware that when he's struggling, he needs to find the ways to succeed. When he was on Dansby Swanson's podcast last year, if you guys haven't watched that, go watch that. It's an hour episode. Really interesting stuff. He talks about his development when he got drafted, then injured, then traded, and the rehab process through COVID in isolation as a teenager, then struggling as he's called up. We saw that really difficult stretch in late 2023 in Colorado and Arizona, and he uses that as like fodder to basically improve in extreme ways. And that's been the most impressive thing for me about Pete is the way he is rapidly adjusting and the batting mechanical tweaks over the past year. He looks so different now compared to last July, then July from that period in April, May, and then even going back further from that April, May period to the September period. And it's just like massive adjustment after adjustment after adjustment. And for a young guy who doesn't have college baseball experience, doesn't have that infrastructure and that precedence of failing, not at the big league level, but in a lower pressure environment, he is just going through all of these different hurdles and coming out so quickly on top to the point where he's getting MVP votes. It's insane to even discuss.
And, just updating after the home run on Thursday, 271 average, 305 on base, 554 slug, good for a 365 weighted on base average.
I mean, the slug is just absurd.
38 WRC plus. That was one of the things that Jed Hoyer was talking about because Brian Kenny was asking him about that. Like, where did this power come from? Do you project him at a 550 slugging percentage? No. And again, with like the biggest shit-eating grin on his face, Jed is like, we didn't see the 550 slugging percentage coming, but, and that's when he was like, sometimes when you bet on these like really good athletes, like they make changes and they surprise you. So,
and it's not fluky too. That's the thing. It's not like, some home runs are just barely leaving the yard. Dude, he's barreling up. You look at those like sweet spot rates or the launch angle sweet spot rates, like it's all like top percentiles. If you look at just the exit view, everything is like top percentile for him. It's not fluky. And he's doing this again after coming off significant adjustments, just beyond impressive and encouraging. And it extends, just the last point, PCA, it extends this win window dramatically. When you can front load value of 5+ WAR with pre-arbitration, are you kidding? You know how flexible that makes this front office? That is unbelievably valuable to have potentially securing over the next 2 years as a baseline 40th percentile outcome, 4 to 5 WAR at pre-arb levels. I mean, come on. You never see that in the league, or rather rarely see that in the league.
It's been a joy, and especially, look, like it's also been rather interesting, like watching how that's played out. Cause I think, coming into the season and, people have had kind of this vision of him, and his season is really playing out in a way that I don't think a lot of people expected. I don't think a lot of people expected him to be your cleanup hitter with a 554 slugging percentage. I think maybe they envision something else and maybe more driven by his speed, but like a lot of what he's doing is just driven by his power and his ability to slug. And as we talked about earlier, his ability to slug on pitches that are up at his eyes, at his neck, and some that are at his shoes. It's pretty incredible.
I mean,
but
like the closest comp I
before we
have.
continue, Brendan, we are going to head to overtime. We're going to run long. If you're watching us on Fast, head over to YouTube, the CHGO Cubs channel. We'll catch you in overtime here in a second.
The comp I have for PCA, I mean, how can you not? I think it's like Vlad Senior, like just the ability for Vlad,
the OG Vlad.
Yeah, like for the ability for Vlad to barrel up on pitches like that at times hit the dirt. It's insane. I mean, that's really the first comparison that comes to mind, of course, like not mechanically and lefty and righty and whatnot, but you just never see that consistency of barrels outside the zone. And a little bit like Castellanos do, a little bit.
So I want to talk about Ian Happ, and that was it for me. I don't know if you wanted to touch on anything else. I know maybe you wanted to touch on Matt Shaw's defense, and we can do that too before we wrap up. I do want to address Joel Olmo's question here in our live YouTube chat. As always, appreciate you guys hanging with us. We're at the hour mark. Appreciate you guys being in that live YouTube chat. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up while you're here or on your way out, we appreciate that. He asks, does PCA being an MVP candidate and Seiya having a resurgence help or hurt the case to get Kyle Tucker signed?
Oh, it helps.
I agree. It helps if the ownership is not insane, which we just don't know. But how they offered PCA a contract to try to buy out some of those arbitration years and, pay him more than he might make in some of those arbitration years. But obviously, if it's free agency, you'd be on a team-friendly deal, certainly. And that was before he started doing this. The $75 million offer came. I think that it should now, as far as Tucker's market in a vacuum, that's also one of the variables we don't know. A team like the Dodgers, the Yankees could offer him $1 billion and it can mess everything up, right? Like there's a level the Cubs are going to be willing to go to, and some of these teams may act in a way that no matter what, the Cubs just aren't going to do, because that's how Ricketts is operating. We don't know that. We can't answer that. But as we've talked about, having a guy like PCA at 23, where at the moment you don't need to, in order to keep him in your organization until 2030, you can go to arbitration if you want. You do not have to pay him at the level of Kyle Tucker, for example. How they decide to go about that, we'll see. Obviously, they tried to get ahead of that, and Pete said no, and he's correct to have done that.
Show me the money.
Right. But having a guy that's 23, who at least relative to his production is cost controlled, and someone you can build around in this way, should embolden them to spend more money. The more positions you can fill with guys like that. And right now you're continuing to get another strong season out of Michael Busch. That's another position where you don't have to pay top free agent market value for top 10 level first base production. If Matt Shaw can continue to develop, and that one at least is a much further away from being like, yep, he's the third baseman, that's all set and done, great. But if you can fill some of these positions, if Miguel Amaya can come back and be healthy and be someone you can rely on at catcher, things like that, then you can use the rest of that money to pay Kyle Tucker. And if you have those guys locked up, as we've talked about with the Dodgers a lot, Brendan, it doesn't matter if you have a rookie playing shortstop. It doesn't matter if you're throwing a guy and left the corpse of Jason Hayward in right field for one of those years. Who cares? The top 3 hitters in your lineup are 3 of the best players in the league. You'll figure it out from there. So to me, PCA becoming a star here, and I want to word this carefully, it doesn't make it more likely the Cubs sign Kyle Tucker. It should make it smarter for the front office and ownership to do it. Because if you weren't getting this cheaper level production, again, relative to their performance and arbitration and things like that, then you're thinking, if we pay Kyle Tucker, we don't have these other positions figured out. we're going to have to spend money to address those other positions. If you do have them figured out, then you should give the money to Kyle Tucker. So what Tom does and what makes sense are two different things. But the team having young stars performing at a high level makes it in real terms easier and smarter to spend the money on the proven top level star. Whether Tom does that or not, or as I see it in the chat, whether he says, well, we've got these young stars, why would I pay for a 28-year-old? I can't tell you what Tom's going to do. Like, we'll see, and we're going to learn a lot about him when they have these discussions. But logically, this should make it a smarter move to do it.
It's solving for wins. How do you achieve a certain win number? Well, you have a finite budget. That's the reality. If that budget is at a certain threshold and you assign 4 wins to PCA, again, this is like, at this point, the baseline. If you assign 3 wins to Bush, you assign 2.5 wins to Shaw, a 1.5, 2 wins to Amaya. All those guys are making under $1 million. They're pre-arb guys. So your dollar per value output is extremely, extremely favorable. That allows you now to consolidate money to more sure wins in Kyle Tucker. Again, now, does Tom look at it the same way we look at it? No, but it undoubtedly makes the puzzle easier. It's obvious. It makes it easier for any team when you have pre-arb guys perform in some cases like PCA at an MVP caliber level, of course.
You were really into referring to PCA as an MVP tonight. You're not wrong, but you're like peppering it in
4
there.
wins now? Is he a 4-win player, Corey? It's June 12th.
It's like Paul Revere. I'd be running through
Corey,
the streets.
He hit a pitch that was thrown at his nose tonight.
I wasn't knocking you for doing it.
I'm just saying it's absurd what we're seeing. Yeah. Like sometimes I have to slap myself in the face.
And yeah, again, our friend Evil Wax in the chat makes a good point. Like, and to the initial point on Seiya too, like, Seiya is a free agent in 2027. He's 30 years old now. What they decide to do there as far as long-term and what Seiya wants to do long-term, like, we're not sure about that. Now, Seiya, as we have said, and I will take my victory lap as someone who has supported Seiya and believed in Seiya forever, even at his lowest. And he continues over the last calendar year plus to be one of the best hitters in baseball, homering again on Thursday. But he only has a certain amount of time on his current deal. I bring up our friend Evo Wax because he makes a good point. Like, I doubt that Kyle Tucker would entertain anything during the season, because if you're him, you got to at least listen to the number that the Yankees are going to throw at you, right? At least just hear it and then take it back to Tom if you love Chicago and want to stay with the Cubs. But it is a good point as you approach this deadline. Like, the Cubs have a lot of outfielders that might headline trades if you're really trying to push in for a starter. Might be nice to know that you have your outfield kind of jammed up for a while with PCA and Kyle Tucker and Ian Happ and maybe Seiya Suzuki for longer than 2026 when you make those trades, if you do ship out those guys. But I don't think that that's going to be possible.
I don't know. Wasn't there a report? Am I just like dreaming this that they were talking like in April or something like that? Maybe I'm like legitimately.
It's hard to tell what is real or not. There's been some stuff put out by his agency. I think there was a report, from David Kaplan at one point that the Cubs knew what it was going to take and they were going to be willing to go there, but you just never know. So I don't know. If you're Kyle Tucker, like, I think even if you love Chicago, like LA, New York, tell me the number you're thinking, and then I'm going to go ask Tom to get as close as he can to that, right? Like, doesn't that seem to be the most sensible thing?
And the layer on top of that, too, we had Jed Hoyer get up in front of a microphone and tell you and I, not you and I directly, but at the entire, Cubs fan base.
I like to think he's talking straight to me.
Sometimes. Yeah. I am very confident in extending Rizzo. Those were the exact 2 words from the GM. Yeah. So if I have a beat reporter saying, "Oh, Cubs are very confident they're going to extend Cubs or Kyle Tucker," not going to believe it. at
Well,
all.
and I do
scarred.
like the comment in our YouTube chat from Orange Juice here, who says Seiya won't come back since he was lied to by David Ross about how cold it is in Chicago. It's funny to think that he looks like he's having a great time, but like really he's just biding his time. Like I gotta get out of here. They
I
lied to me
can't
that it
wait
was
to get to
cold
San
here.
Diego.
Yeah. All right. Last thing here, at least for me, just highlighting, again, it's been a really nice stretch for our man Ian Happ, over an 840 OPS in his last 15 games. Overall line on the year, not exactly where he'd like it to be or where it's been, but he's getting there, especially coming back from an oblique injury. 251, 339, 393, 111 WRC plus. He'll get there. I mean, he's just been remarkably consistent. I
he's
tweeted this.
destroyed some baseballs over the past week.
Yeah, he's remarkably consistent. And I tweeted
Yeah.
this the other night that it's a funny exercise every year, especially this year. He was coming back from an injury that we're lucky wasn't significant to like derail his whole season.
Yeah.
But every year he has like periods where it's just not there. He looks a little lost. The K rate spikes a little bit. Every year he's a 120 WRC plus guy. He's a 350, 360 base OBP guy. But during those stretches, like half of Cubs Twitter legitimately wants him like shot into the sun and DFA'd and never spoken of again. I mean, the speed at which people get him out of the leadoff spot, this and that, like it's very funny to me how quickly that happens. He's been extremely consistent. Like he is a really good hitter, a quality hitter, and an excellent on base guy every single year. He gets there every single year. If you look at certain stretches, maybe it doesn't look as good, but at the end of 162, Ian Happ is one of those players. Like he's Ian Happ. Like it's just, he just puts up a very similar kind of vibe every year. And it's a great guy to have at the top of this order. And it's really nice to see him looking like he's heating up again.
He's getting paid what his value is. He's getting paid $60 million over the course of 3 years. So it's not as if we're paying him to put up 5 WAR per season with like over $200 million, right? So he is what he is. And he's a consistent, above average player that's affordable without the long-term commitment, that's been doing the exact same thing for almost 10 years as a Cub without extending their budget. So yeah, he's unique. We've never had a Cubs hitter like this. I can't find a similar player who's been with his team so long, played such an integral role, but wasn't like your quote unquote superstar. Like we think of Aramis and D. Lee and those guys. Those were like bona fide superstars. Soriano had all the money. He had the production for several years. Some years were good, some years were bad, kind of like, drawing vitriol from fans. But again, higher output years than Happ. He's one of those above average, consistent, affordable guys. And those are really valuable across the league.
Well, and as we said before, he's going to end up being one of the guys who plays like the most games as
That's
a
what I'm
Chicago
saying.
Cub, like ever. So, as we go to the stadium now and they're always putting, Andre and Lee Smith and Fergie and those guys on the Jumbotron, like 20 years from now, that's going to be Ian Happ in the box, the legends of the game, right? Like, and they'll cut to Ian Happ and,
they're going to have
that's
some
what it's going to
fans
be.
like, they're going to be some angry fans.
They're going to be so mad. Yeah. I was so mad when he was the leadoff hitter with a 370 on base percentage. It makes me sick.
Remember that one time he was back cleanup for 2 weeks?
Yeah. Anyway.
Gosh.
Yeah, it is interesting. He just seems to catch an ire that is very much not deserved.
Well, he's the bridge, dude. He's the bridge from the golden era to the dark times.
Sure.
So, the projections get put on him, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, and I look, hey, he's also one of those guys too. Like he's played on some good teams, but I look forward, like I get very excited to the prospect, like especially guys like him and Nico in particular. I guess Seiya maybe in that group a little bit, not as much, but like Ian and Nico, like I'm excited for them to be on a Cubs team at Wrigley Field in a pennant race. Like this your moment, guys. Like Happ was on it, but as part of a back piece of the core trying to win another title, etc. Like now it's like, this is y'all's team. Like you've been here a while. You've been at some of the lower points. Like now you got 40,000 at beautiful historic Wrigley Field in a pennant chase. Like, let's go, boys.
Has it sunk in for you? Last point. Has it sunk in for you? This is a World Series contender. And I mean, this Cubs team legitimately is a World Series contender. That we're talking about this in serious fashion. Has it sunk in for you?
No.
I know it's weird, right?
No, I mean, even as
Like
you're
I'm almost
talking about the
scared to even
PCA
say
stuff,
that.
it hasn't sunk in to me. It's
Yeah.
like absurd. Yeah.
It's like, are you scared? Like I'm kind of scared to like accept it because
No.
I know like intuitively, it like looking at a team like this should make me realize this is a World Series contender, but I'm a little scared to accept it. It's weird.
It's hard to believe. To be honest with you, I'm still every time I see Kyle Tucker in a Cubs uniform, I'm like, get out of here! No way. That's so cool. Like, look at that. So no, not really. Last thing, and then we'll get out of here. And I don't think we have a lot on it, but just making sure we give our flowers. Like Matt Shaw at third base, man.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
his hitting profile, it's a little weird. Like, but again, young guy. Like he's trying to figure it out. You'd like to see some more hard contact there, etc. But the glove at third base, dude. Like, where did that
Unbelievable.
come from?
The arm strength he's showing. I mean, the play to end the game in Philadelphia with the barehanded throw was absurd.
Incredible. I mean, some
Incredible.
incredible picks. Yeah.
And he's doing that too on backhand plays behind third base, slipping at times, sometimes not slipping, throwing hard throws down to first base. I did not anticipate that arm strength. No one really did. You look at the grades by scouts; they are grading him as like a 45 on the
Yeah, I
scale.
remember those discussions. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was always the discussion. Like, oh, can he even have the arm strength to hang out at third base? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like when Nico moved to shortstop. I remember this so vividly when he moved. And the discussion was, well, his glove is good. He's a natural infielder, played shortstop in college. Like the glove is good, but can the arm play up? And had Dansby Swanson not existed, he would have won the Gold Glove in 2022. And he was making jump throws that Derek Jeter did not even have the arm strength to do himself. Right. So it does remind me of that. And again, it's a good reminder for all of us to not be so quick to judgments on these like younger guys, right? Especially for these shortstops as well. They're shortstops and athletes for a reason. And sometimes what we see is not what we expected, but we should always remember the possibility that the output we're seeing from guys like Shaw or Nico playing shortstop, those are realistic for other guys in the future.
Yeah, and again, credit to the organization and the work they put in, and credit to Matt Shaw. He's put in a lot of work to play some different positions in his minor league career, and get in this position. And it's I like the idea too that like as a young guy coming up, third base is the spot that's open, and he's looking around the diamond going, well, the rest of these guys are crazy on defense. Like I gotta step my game up, or I'm gonna feel out of place. And like here he is. But the Cubs have. And again, credit to the coaching and the players themselves, but like some real strides from guys that we weren't sure about their defensive abilities. Michael Busch has taken great strides at first base.
Absolutely.
Like Matt Shaw, even just from when he came back from Iowa, like just picking everything in sight.
Miguel Amaya defensively too over the past year.
Yeah, all of a sudden the Cubs can throw out runners again. Like, yeah, I mean, really a credit to them. Well, and look, I mean, it goes back even to someone like Ian Happ. Ian Happ wasn't a left fielder. Like, and now he's a multi-time Gold Glove winner. Like, so yeah, it's a credit to the org and these players putting in the work and finding those ways to get better. So I think that's all we have for you.
All right.
Once again, the Cubs beat the Pirates on Thursday night. They sack the Pirates. Yeah. Just Google Justin Turner and Cubs sack Pirates, and you'll figure it out. There he is. The Cubs are 42-27. They have a 5.5 game lead over the second place Brewers, who took that spot by beating the Cardinals on Thursday night, who are now 6 games back. So all things told, Brendan, as we sit here on June 12th, pretty good to be the Chicago Cubs, led by none other than Pete Crow Armstrong. So Brendan and I will talk to you again next week. I'm trying to quickly look at the schedule. I believe the Cubs have another game next Thursday, so it'll be a post game, even though we were in a stretch of always being on an off day. So here's an easy way to figure it out. If the Cubs are off,
they're playing 11:20 on Thursday. So
okay, we'll be at 8:30 probably Central Time in Chicago. Yeah. So we will talk to you again next week. Appreciate everybody that was here with us in the YouTube chat. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Sarah. Cody and the boys will have you on Sunday and, of course, throughout the week for your post-game and off-day show needs. Talk to you next week. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.